honored to be with such distinguished historians. I'm relatively new to the industry. I began collecting comic books as a teenager in the mid-60s, and I had subscriptions to probably about a half a dozen Marvel heroes. I had the first Daredevil, when Captain America came back to life and they brought him back in the mid-60s, what have you. And at the time I was just collecting them just because I enjoyed reading them and continued to enjoy them. And when I went away to college, some odd years later, and I had them in a huge box in the basement, and my mother decided that they were trash. And when I started going to Comic-Cons, and I would just see this same book worth literally hundreds of dollars. And so from that point on, I really decided that I was on a mission to go back and find those books that I had cherished, as a young person. But in terms of collecting, comic books, I think one of the other things that has also been, a positive influence on them is because comic books now, they're in museums. I remember when they had the Master of Comics exhibit nationally, and suddenly, you're seeing this work of art in a setting where the value of it is so much more better perceived. I know me personally, I had two exhibits last year. One of them at the Oakland African American Museum, the other one at the LA Museum of African American Art. And for the first time, comic book art, comic related art, was actually perceived as having some value to it. And 2 years ago, I was part of an international exhibit. It's called Pincher. And it was a collection of cartoons and comic books from artists from African heritage. And it took place in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And it was something that was never really done before, and I think it even changes the perception of what comic art is and its value to it. One of the things that was really intriguing to me about that particular exhibit is there's so much that's reflected in the culture and how comic books are being used. As far as especially people from African heritage are using it to convey injustice, slavery, equality, and health issues. When me, as a young reader here in America, when you think about comics, you don't like to think about superheroes and those types of things. So it's really interesting to see that medium being used, in a different way. So I'm going to wrap things up. I just wanted to share a little bit about me and my background. I started out in advertising, and then I worked in animation in the mid-'80s. I worked on Cosby Kids and through Filmation and He-Man and what was some of the other Filmation stuff? Super Friends and those types of things. Star Trek animated series.
Excuse me, I went through the trash can every Sunday for 1 year when they were making this series. And I still got a lot of original art comic books. I sold them for $5 to $25 a page at the Elbertez Comic-Cons.
Well, to fast forward, and then from that, I created my own comic books in the mid-'90s. I started going to Comic-Con. I have a program where I work with young people. It's called Tales from the Kids, and so I do a workshop with kids and help them create their own characters and ideas. And in 2002, I started doing political cartoons. So I've been doing that for the last decade, and I won an NAACP Image Award for my book. It was called Barack, Race and Media. So it was a series of comic books, of political cartoons that conveyed Barack Obama's journey to the White House, all the challenges that he had, to make it to the White House. But again, it's an honor to be part of this panel. One of the things, just quickly, just about my short experience with the industry. I know I went to my first Comic-Con in '94, and just to see how it evolved over the years, and especially with, and when I first entered the marketplace, there were 5 different distributors. So if you created an independent book, you had 5 different distributors that would distribute your book. Now I think there's one Make Diamond, and I don't know if there's even a second one. And then I watched as Marvel went through its brief restructuring and changed its emphasis from actually producing books to licensing its characters, and that's one of the reasons why you see so many of those characters portrayed on the big screen nowadays. And also seeing how the Comic-Con has changed from being focused, a community of people creating comic books, to Hollywood and video game and some of those other components of it. So I'm really enjoying, especially the conversation about getting back to the whole essence of why Comic-Con was created, and the community of creative people that enjoy the whole craft of creating comics.
Thanks, Dave.